Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, was making his rounds Sunday morning, and one of his stops was on Meet the Press with the venerable Kirsten Welker. Anyone that has seen Kirsten Welker and how she operates, we first of all, we know that NBC, MSDNC is left-leaning, so most of her questions are going to be in the direction of the opposition party, okay? Just keep that in mind. But if you know Kirsten Welker, she likes to play the gotcha moment, where she will ask you a question or will lead you into a question to make it seem like you're contradicting yourself. She's going to ask Speaker Johnson a question about how he feels about Ukraine, and then she's going to play him a tape of what he said almost a year ago. Let's take a listen.
Hey, Kristen, great to be with you as always.
It's great to have you back, Mr. Speaker. As you know, reaction has been pouring into that Oval Office meeting on Friday. Democrats and even some Republicans say it only emboldened Vladimir Putin. A Kremlin spokesman saying today that the U.S. foreign policy shift, quote, largely coincides with its vision. Here was the Wall Street Journal editorial board, quote, Putin wins the Trump-Zelensky Oval Office spectacle. Was Vladimir Putin the winner here, Mr. Speaker?
No, he wasn't. Listen, I have participated in a lot of bilateral meetings in my time with heads of state and other dignitaries. There's always a certain protocol that goes along with this. I've never seen anything like President Zelensky's behavior there. He berated and interrupted his host, and instead of expressing gratitude for the extraordinary help that the U.S. has provided his country and effectively helped him stay alive and stay in power.
Well, I want to play you what you said almost a year ago when you argued in favor of sending more aid to Ukraine. Take a listen.
I believe Xi and Vladimir Putin and Iran really are an axis of evil. I think they're in coordination on this. I think that Vladimir Putin would continue to march through Europe if he were allowed. I think he might go to the Balkans next. I think he might have a showdown with Poland or one of our NATO allies. To put it bluntly, I would rather send bullets to Ukraine than American boys.
Mr. Speaker, do you still believe that Ukraine is an ally who the United States should support over Vladimir Putin and an axis of evil?
For everyone paying attention to this issue, before Speaker Mike Johnson answers her question, I need to bring you up to speed. The left is pushing for war. They're pushing for war. They're aligning themselves with the EU, who is also pushing for war. They're trying to push the United States into a war, or at least into a position where Russia feels like the U.S. is a threat. The United States, Russia, China are all powers in this global arena, okay? In this global arena, the United States, China, and Russia are your foremost powers. So what President Trump is trying to do is align himself with these people, not against these people, for peace. The left is against that because they want to use war as deception to get away with the things like the U.S. AID situation and other things they've been doing behind the scenes under the auspices of war. See, during war, we don't get all the news. We just get what they tell us, which is more sensationalism. President Trump is trying to get down to the nitty-gritty of this issue and bring both parties to the table, Ukraine and Russia. You're not going to bring both parties to the table talking about either or the other side, either one of the other side. They want President Trump to say something bad against Russia because that will ruin talks, and they know that. So when he answers this question, you have to understand Kirsten Welker is leaning left in all of this entire interview. Everything she asked him is not going to have anything to do with the progress President Trump has made in his first 5, going on his 6th week in office. Let's take a listen.
Yes, it's pretty absurd for anyone in the media or Democrats to somehow proclaim that President Trump, the White House, or Republicans in Congress are on Putin's side. It's a joke. We understand that he is a dangerous adversary and he is the one that provoked the war. When we did the aid to Ukraine a year ago, the entire point of that, and I was consistent from that moment until today, the whole point was to position Ukraine for peace talks, to make sure that they could hold the line until President Trump returned to the White House, which we knew was going to happen. President Trump is the only figure on the entire globe who is powerful enough to bring both of these parties to the table. And he was in the process of doing that. And he was very, I think, excited about the deal that was going to be consummated yesterday. But President Zelensky went in and blew it up. And it is such a great disappointment for everyone. We need to get him back to the table. We need to get Ukraine to express gratitude, of course, for all that we've done for them. But to bring an end to this conflict, it is in America's interest to get this done. And it is certainly, obviously, in Ukraine's interest and all of our allies in Europe and around the world.
But Mr. Speaker, you're saying that we all know that Putin provoked the war. Actually, President Trump said that President Zelensky provoked the war. The week started with the U.S. siding with Russia and North Korea at the UN, refusing to condemn Russian aggression in Ukraine. It ended with this Oval Office confrontation with Zelensky. Is President Trump realigning the United States with Russia here?
No, President Trump is trying to get these two parties to a point of peace. And it takes certain maneuvers and certain strategies to do that. You have two parties who, to this point, have not shown any interest, apparently, in getting to peace. What President Zelensky did in the White House was effectively signaled to us that he's not ready for that yet. And I think that's a grave disappointment. We have to get this settled. And we stand with our allies, we always do, but they have to be reasonable. You've got to bring an end to this war. And for Zelensky to come in and make demands that he wasn't even making a year ago, I think shows that his priorities are in the wrong place. And I certainly hope that he will come back to his senses. President Trump has been very clear about this.
We had a meeting today, as you know, with President Zelensky, and I would say it didn't work out exactly great from his standpoint. I think he very much overplayed his hand. We're looking for peace. We're not looking for somebody that's going to sign up a strong power and then not make peace because they feel emboldened, and that's what I saw happening. I'm looking for peace. We're not looking to go into a 10-year war and play games. We want peace. And it was just my impression that if we do that, if we sign up, he's looking for something that I'm not looking for. He's looking to go on and fight. We're looking to end the death. 2,000 people died this week. Soldiers, more than that, but 2,000 approximately people died this week. Young Ukrainians and Russians. And somebody would say, why do you care about Ukraine and Russian soldiers? I care about them. I care about everybody. And we're not doing that. Now, if we don't do anything, he's going to have to make peace, but he's dealing with a very weak set of cards. If we sign, he's dealing with a very strong set of cards, and then he doesn't want to make peace. So that's where we are. It's very simple. I'm not looking to get into anything protracted. I want immediate peace. President Putin is going to want to make, and he wants to end it. And you saw what I saw today. This is a man that wants to get us signed up and keep fighting, and we're not doing that. Not for this country.
Promise made, promise kept. President Trump is sticking to the plan. He ran on this. He campaigned on this. He's following through on this. The left doesn't like it because he's being consistent. If you have been following the news, if you watch Fox and MSDNC and CNN, they have not said anything positive about the president. You're not going to hear anything positive no matter what he does. If he brought world peace tomorrow, they will find something negative to say about him and report. They cannot bring themselves to say anything positive about the president because since he came down the escalator in Trump Tower, they have been on the war path, saying anything and everything about this man, with or without evidence, with or without the story being true or not. They have made up stories like Russia hoax. That was a made up story that was reported for 2.5, almost 3 years, ladies and gentlemen, Americans. For 2.5 to 3 years, they lied about Trump campaign being involved with Russia. So if they will do something like that, what do you think they're going to do right now to ruin these peace talks? They're trying to get Trump to say something bad about Putin. And if he doesn't say something bad, now this is a dichotomy with Trump and Putin. If he says something bad about Putin, now Putin is going to be feeling some type of way, and that may ruin peace talks. If he doesn't say something bad about Putin, the left-wing media, the legacy media, slash state-sponsored media, they're going to say continue their war path against Trump. So it's a win-win for Trump if he stays neutral between Ukraine and Russia, which he has always done consistently. You're trying to bring peace to this region, which is good for all parties involved, except those who have nefarious intentions.
All right. Well, I do want to talk about the big budget bill that passed through the House. Your plan calls for almost $900 billion over the next 10 years in cuts from the Energy and Commerce Committee. As you know, it's going to be nearly impossible to reach that level of cuts without touching entitlements. I know you have been asked this before, Mr. Speaker, but I need to get you on the record here again. Are cuts to Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security off the table?
Yes, and don't take my word for it, Kristen. Go do a word search of the budget resolution that we passed on Tuesday. There is not one mention of Medicare, Medicaid, or Social Security. It's not in the bill because we haven't set the policy. What we're trying to do is get America back on sound fiscal ground. We have a $36 trillion federal debt and ballooning deficits. The Republican Party is the party of fiscal responsibility. The American people want us to review the expenditures of the country and get our fiscal house in order, and that's what we must do. At the same time, we've got to extend the Trump-era tax cuts so we can make sure that every American does not receive the largest tax increase in U.S. history at the end of this year. We have very serious work. We can do both of those things simultaneously and not affect benefits for anyone who relies upon those and is eligible to receive them. President Trump's been crystal clear about this, and we have as well. But in those programs, you have lots of inefficiencies. In Medicaid, for example, there's an estimated $50 billion a year that is lost in fraud alone. We've got to clean that up, and the people want us to do it. That's what we're talking about, ensuring efficiencies, ensuring that the programs are strengthened so that they can remain solvent and help the people they're intended to help.
So you say there won't be any cuts to entitlements, but on Friday, Elon Musk, who President Trump has, of course, put in charge of making cuts all across the government, called Social Security, quote, the biggest Ponzi scheme of all time. Mr. Speaker, is that a sign that Social Security is Elon Musk's next target?
No, well, I've met with Elon about this multiple times. We meet late into the night in his office, and we've looked at that. What he's finding with his algorithms crawling through the data of Social Security system is enormous amounts of fraud, waste, and abuse.
So it's a target.
And we need
it
to
is
target that. The American people want us to. No, Kristen, don't put words in my mouth. What I am saying is we have a moral responsibility to ensure that those programs are conducted in a way that does not allow for this massive fraud and abuse. And that's what he is finding. He's finding, for example, that one Social Security number can be assigned to dozens or maybe hundreds of people so that every time there's a check distribution, it goes to all those different addresses. There was no safeguard in the existing software, the Social Security, to prevent that from happening. That is outrageous. And when these examples are presented to the American people, they're going to be on the side of Doge and Elon, President Trump, and the Republicans in Congress. And we look forward to cleaning that up.
It's worth noting the Social Security Administration's internal watchdog found that less than 1% of benefit payments were improper.
Kirsten Welker, Dana Bash, Caitlin Collins, you see how she tried to slip in that little dig about less than 1% of payments were improper. Well, why didn't y'all report that 4 years ago during the Biden administration? Now she's trying to pretend she's a journalist. No one knows where this information she just alluded to came from or who it came from. She just threw that out to make it seem like everything Speaker Johnson just said was insignificant. Well, Speaker Johnson, it's only less than 1% of fraud, waste, and abuse that he's found. But guess what? No questions about waste, fraud, and abuse. Not one question during this entire interview did she ask Speaker Mike Johnson, well, how bad is the waste, fraud, and abuse? See, if that doesn't come from the White House, Caroline Leavitt, the president, or his cabinet, you're not going to hear about it on MSDNC and CNN. Again, to my Democratic friends and colleagues, are y'all on board with this? Are you open to getting a balanced perspective by listening to Fox sometimes, along with your daily diet of MSDNC? That's all I want to know.